Have you ever noticed that some people seem to attract opportunities effortlessly, while others work incredibly hard and nothing flows? Napoleon Hill discovered the secret. It's not about how much you do, but about how your mind is organized. Before the universe can deliver prosperity, you need to create the mental space to receive it, and that changes everything. Before we continue, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. This helps this message reach more people who need to reorganize their lives from the inside out. How many times have you asked for a breakthrough, believed with all your heart, worked until exhaustion, did everything you thought was right, and still things seemed stuck? Maybe the answer isn't in your lack of effort, but in your lack of mental structure. While you wait for the universe to act, it's waiting for you to organize your internal world. Napoleon Hill taught that the disorganized mind is fertile ground for doubt, and doubt is the greatest thief of dreams. No divine plan prospers in the midst of mental chaos. Organizing yourself isn't just about aligning appointments or cleaning your room. It's about putting each thought in its right place. It's about aligning your mind with the flow of universal abundance. When you decide to organize your mental space, you're telling the cosmos, I am ready. And when that inner readiness happens, something greater begins to move. The universe never blesses improvisation. It blesses preparation. That's why so many pray for prosperity, but remain disorganized emotionally, financially, mentally, and the internal chaos repels exactly what they most desire. The question that defines the beginning of all change is simple. If success arrived today, would you be ready to receive it? Napoleon Hill called this the law of controlled growth. The universe doesn't deliver something big to someone who hasn't yet learned to manage the small. It waits for maturity, consistency, and focus. And that begins with one attitude, putting each thing in its right place. When you start organizing your life, the first miracle doesn't happen outside, it happens inside. Your mind gains clarity, your decisions become more precise, and what once seemed impossible begins to flow. Look at nature. The sun rises at the right time. The ocean obeys the tide. The human body operates in perfect cycles. Nothing is improvised. Chaos is the opposite of divine presence. When your life is confused, it's as if the signal is full of interference. And the universe doesn't speak through noise. That's why, before asking for more, organize what you already have. Take an afternoon, sit down with paper, and write, what in my life is out of order? My mind, my finances, my time, my emotions. Start with one point. This simple act is spiritual, not just practical. Because the universe responds to clarity. It multiplies what is managed with wisdom, but what is wasted it allows to be lost, not as punishment, but as principle. Organization is the first step of faith in action. It's the act that transforms intention into movement. When you arrange what is yours, you're showing the divine that you're prepared for what's coming, and what's coming always arrives at the right time, never before, never after. Most people believe they're stuck because of lack of faith, when in reality they're stuck because of lack of structure. They want to prosper, but don't know how much they spend. They want to change their life, but can't maintain a routine for more than 3 days. They want to hear the voice of the universe, but live with minds so full of noise that there's no space to listen. Napoleon Hill taught that the disciplined mind is the soil where faith flourishes, and that the universe works through laws. One of them is the law of order. Chaos isn't punishment, it's the consequence of lack of direction. When you organize your life, you're saying, universe, I'm taking care of what I can so you can do what I cannot. And that's how the spiritual manifests in the practical. The miracle doesn't arrive to those who only pray, but to those who prepare. Organization is the first sign of true faith. Because faith isn't waiting passively, it's acting with confidence that what you do has purpose. You demonstrate faith when you create a routine, when you fulfill what you promise yourself, when you care for what you have. The universe doesn't deliver a great mission to someone who hasn't yet learned to manage the basics. It observes consistency, care, intention, and when it finds someone who acts with purpose, the rest happens naturally. Napoleon Hill observed this in hundreds of successful people. All of them had the habit of mental organization, Before changing the external world, they silenced their own minds. They took pauses, they reflected, wrote their goals, planned their days. They treated time as a sacred resource because they knew that time is life in motion. The universe doesn't act on impulse, it acts on principle, and the principle of order is one of the most powerful that exists. Look at what surrounds you. Nothing that is divine is improvised. Nature obeys rhythms. The seasons succeed each other in harmony. The seed sprouts at the right time. Disorder is human, but order is divine. That's why, before asking for prosperity, ask yourself, if the universe gave me what I'm asking for today, would I have the structure to sustain it? Often, the no you receive is just a not yet. The universe isn't denying you, it's preparing you. It's waiting for you to create the space where the blessing can rest. Organizing yourself is opening space for the new. It's cleaning what doesn't serve, adjusting what's pending, giving direction to energy that was previously lost. And when you do this, the cosmos responds. Comment here below. I choose to organize myself and allow the universe to act. This phrase is your first act of decision. The universe doesn't do for you what is your responsibility. It acts through you. When you organize, when you create a routine, when you honor your time, your body, and what you possess, the divine finds a clear path to manifest. It's at this moment that the spiritual and the practical unite. Chaos is noise, but order is silent prayer. With each small act of organization, you're telling the universe, I value what you've given me. Napoleon Hill called this mental discipline, the capacity to put thought under command. And he said something profound. The human mind is like a garden. If you don't plant anything, weeds take over. The weeds are distractions, fear, doubt, laziness, guilt. And each act of organization is a way of pulling out those weeds, clearing the ground, opening space for prosperity to grow. When you put everything in order, you notice that the weight diminishes, things flow, problems seem smaller, and the mind gains lightness. Disorganization steals energy because it keeps the soul in a state of urgency. You wake up tired, sleep frustrated, and feel that time is never enough. But time doesn't lack. What lacks is priority, and priority is born from clarity. Organizing yourself is the art of choosing what truly matters. The world is full of talented people who never prospered because they live in confusion. The disorganized mind is like a house without foundation. Any wind knocks it down. The universe doesn't build on unstable ground. That's why, before the harvest, it always prepares the soil. Organizing yourself is the act of preparing the soil of your own life. Each bill paid, each commitment honored, each habit adjusted is a brick of faith. You're building an invisible structure that heaven recognizes, and when that structure becomes firm, miracles become natural. They don't happen by chance, but because there's a foundation to sustain them. Napoleon Hill taught that temporary failure is nature's test to measure how much you've learned to organize yourself emotionally. With each challenge, life asks you, are you ready to manage what you're asking for? And it's at this point that most people give up. But those who understand the law of order persist because they know the process is the refining of purpose. When you honor the basics, the universe entrusts you with the extraordinary. Organization isn't an obstacle, it's the door. And when it opens, the flow of life changes. You stop chasing miracles and start walking within them. Everything begins to align, not by luck, but by coherence. What many people call luck is actually the natural result of those who live in order. Chaos is human, but progress is divine. When you decide to live with purpose, you begin to enter the rhythm of creation. Everything in nature follows a sequence: plant, water, grow, harvest. Nothing happens outside of time. And it's the same with spiritual and material life. The universe doesn't act on impulse, it acts in synchronicity. When you organize yourself, your life begins to reflect this rhythm. Things stop happening by chance and start happening with meaning. It's as if the cosmos finally recognizes you. Napoleon Hill said that prosperity isn't an event, it's a reflection. You don't receive it by chance. You attract it because you become compatible with it. And that compatibility is called structure. Organization is the invisible mold where the universe deposits what you asked for. Without that mold, blessings slip through your fingers. That's why many gain something and soon lose it. There was no foundation to sustain it. Organizing yourself is strengthening your shoulders for the weight of victory. And the more you practice this, the more you realize that the miracle doesn't come from outside. It comes from within as a consequence of your preparation. The universe doesn't give you what you ask for. It gives you what you're ready to sustain. And readiness begins in the details. The made bed, the clean desk, the structured routine, the resolved pending matters. These simple gestures build the bridge between the human and the divine. Faith without structure is passing emotion. Structure without faith is empty routine. But when the two unite, the impossible becomes inevitable. Organization is proof that you believe. It's action that transforms desire into purpose and purpose into result. And there's a law that governs all of this, the law of divine harmony. It says that everything that is in order attracts what is also in order. A confused mind attracts confusion. An organized mind attracts clarity, the right people, and the right opportunities. That's why, when your life begins to align, it's not coincidence, it's spiritual coherence. You're vibrating at the same rhythm as abundance. Comment here in the comments, I choose to live in order to allow the universe to act. Because the simple act of declaring this reinforces within you what the cosmos needs to hear. Many people confuse organization with rigidity, as if living in order meant living trapped by rules or suffocating routines. But the true meaning of order is the opposite. It is freedom. The freedom to choose with clarity, to act with purpose, and to live in peace. Disorganization, on the other hand, is prison. It keeps you hostage to urgency, makes you react all the time, steals your energy, and prevents you from thinking with depth. You spend the whole day running but feel like you haven't moved an inch. That's the price of chaos. Napoleon Hill explained that clarity is the true form of power, and clarity is only born from order. When you know where everything is, what needs to be done, and what the next step is, fear diminishes and confidence grows. Anxiety loses space because now there is direction. Organizing yourself isn't about wanting to control everything. It's about assuming responsibility. It's accepting that the universe has already placed within you the capacity to manage your own life. When you do this, heaven cooperates. Divine providence isn't magic, it's response. It manifests the moment you show you're prepared. Disorganization in any area is resistance to growth. It's as if you were saying to the cosmos, I'm not ready yet. But from the instant you decide to put things in order, the flow changes. You begin to see progress in areas that previously seemed blocked. Opportunities arise, the right people appear, doors open. And all of this happens because now there is space for the new. The universe doesn't operate in improvisation. It acts where there is structure. And structure is born when you learn to say, I will care for what I have today with excellence. Organization is the greatest form of gratitude that exists. It's looking at what you already have and demonstrating appreciation through care. Those who honor the small attract the great. Those who value the now become worthy of tomorrow. That's why you shouldn't wait for perfect conditions to begin. Arrange what is within reach. Pay what is pending. Take time to organize the environment, plan the week, adjust the routine. These small attitudes aren't trivial, they're spiritual. Each one of them is a seed of faith in action, and that's where transformation begins. Organization returns to you dominion over time and mind. It puts you back in command of your own story. Now, here's the difference Napoleon Hill discovered between people who merely plan and people who actually manifest. Planners have good intentions. They make lists, they set goals, they talk about what they'll do. But manifestors go beyond intention. They create mental structure. They don't just think about prosperity. They organize their minds to become prosperity. This is the crucial distinction that changes everything. Hill taught that the mind operates like a magnetic field. Every thought you hold consistently creates a vibration, and that vibration attracts experiences of the same frequency. A disorganized mind sends mixed signals to the universe. One day you believe in abundance, the next you dwell in scarcity. One moment you're motivated, the next you're defeated. The cosmos receives these contradictory messages and responds with contradictory results. But when you organize your mind, when you establish clear patterns of thought, you create a stable frequency. And stable frequencies attract consistent results. This is why Napoleon Hill emphasized mental discipline above all else. He understood that external organization means nothing if the internal world remains in chaos. You can have the cleanest desk and the most detailed calendar, but if your thoughts are scattered, your results will be scattered too. The prosperous mind has three essential pillars, according to Hill's teachings. First, clarity of purpose. You must know exactly what you want and why you want it. Not vague dreams, but precise intentions. The universe doesn't respond to, "I want to be successful." It responds to, "I am building a life where my skills serve others and create abundant value." See the difference? One is fog, the other is laser focus. Second pillar, daily mental hygiene. Just as you bathe your body, you must cleanse your mind. Every day you're exposed to negativity, doubt, fear, other people's limiting beliefs. If you don't actively clean this mental residue, it accumulates. It becomes a thick layer that blocks inspiration, intuition, and divine guidance. Napoleon Hill recommended a daily practice he called the mental sweep, a deliberate process of identifying and releasing thoughts that don't serve your higher purpose. Third pillar, constructive repetition. The mind is shaped by what you feed it consistently. If you think about lack once, it passes. If you think about it every day, it becomes your reality. But if you consciously and repeatedly direct your thoughts toward abundance, gratitude, and possibility, those become your new mental foundation. Hill discovered that successful people didn't just think positively occasionally. They maintained unwavering mental discipline even when circumstances suggested otherwise. Here's what most people don't understand. Willpower alone isn't enough. Willpower is like a muscle that tires, but mental structure is like a system that runs automatically. When you create structure, you don't need to force yourself every single day. The organized mind naturally gravitates toward productive thoughts because that's the pattern you've installed. Think of it this way. If your morning routine is chaos, hitting snooze, checking your phone immediately, rushing through everything, your mind learns that chaos is normal. But if you wake at a consistent time, spend even 5 minutes in silence, set an intention for the day, your mind learns that order is normal. And what the mind considers normal, it creates more of. Napoleon Hill taught about something he called the law of mental magnetism. He said that the mind doesn't just attract what you want, it attracts what you are. If you are organized internally, you attract organized opportunities. If you are clear mentally, you attract clear paths forward. If you are disciplined in thought, you attract circumstances that reward discipline. This is why two people can have the same goal, the same resources, the same starting point, yet achieve completely different outcomes. The difference isn't in what they do occasionally, it's in how they structure their mental world consistently. The universe recognizes patterns, not efforts. It responds to who you're being, not who you're trying to be. So here are the 5 questions Napoleon Hill used to help people reorganize their mental landscape. Ask yourself these questions honestly and write down your answers. First, what thoughts do I repeat most often throughout the day? Whatever you repeat becomes your mental foundation. If it's worry, that's your foundation. If it's gratitude, that's your foundation. Second question, what am I tolerating in my life that drains my energy? Toleration is a silent killer of prosperity. Every unresolved issue, every toxic relationship, every unfinished task creates mental drag. You can't fly when you're carrying unnecessary weight. Third, what would I do differently if I truly believed the universe was supporting me? This reveals where your faith ends and your doubt begins. Fourth question, how do I spend the first hour after waking and the last hour before sleep? These are the most influential periods for your subconscious mind. If you fill them with social media, news, and complaints, you're programming limitation. If you fill them with intention, reflection, and gratitude, you're programming prosperity. Fifth question: am I living by design or by default? Most people wake up and react to whatever comes. They're living by default. But those who organize their minds live by design. They decide in advance how they'll think, how they'll respond, what they'll focus on. This is the difference between being a leaf in the wind and being the wind itself. Comment here: I choose to organize my mind for prosperity. Write it, because declaration activates intention, and intention activates universal support. Napoleon Hill observed that every great achievement began with a reorganization of thought. Before someone built a fortune, they first built mental clarity. Before someone created impact, they first created internal structure. The external world is always a mirror of the internal world. Always. If your life feels chaotic, your mind is chaotic. If your life feels stagnant, your mind is stuck in old patterns. But here's the powerful truth: you can change your mental patterns at any moment. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect circumstances. You need decision. The moment you decide to organize your thoughts, to choose what you focus on, to direct your mental energy with purpose, everything shifts. Not tomorrow, right now in this moment. There's a test Hill used to measure someone's level of mental organization. He would ask, can you sit in silence for 10 minutes without your mind wandering into worry, regret, or distraction? Most people couldn't. Their minds were like wild horses running in every direction. But those who could maintain focused attention, those were the ones who manifested their desires with seeming ease. Because mental organization isn't about controlling every thought. It's about being able to redirect attention when it strays. It's about recognizing when you're dwelling in limitation and consciously choosing a more empowering perspective. This is spiritual power. Not the power to change the universe, but the power to align your frequency with what the universe is already offering. The organized mind recognizes synchronicities. Jad notices signs, hunches, and guidance that the chaotic mind misses completely. Have you ever had the experience where you think of someone and they call, or you need information and the perfect book appears? That's not coincidence. That's coherence. Your mind became clear enough to receive what was always being transmitted. Napoleon Hill taught that the universe is constantly broadcasting on the frequency of abundance. The signal is always there, always available, always waiting for you to tune in. But you can't tune in when your mental radio is full of static. Organization removes the static, it clears the channel, and suddenly you start receiving guidance that was there all along. This is why the transformation begins with such simple things: making your bed, planning your day, keeping your word to yourself. These aren't just practical tasks, they're tuning forks. Each one sends a signal to your subconscious. I am someone who follows through. I am someone who creates order. I am someone who honors what I say I'll do. And your subconscious responds by becoming that person. The mind doesn't distinguish between small acts and large acts. It only recognizes patterns. When you consistently do small things with excellence, your mind accepts that excellence is your standard, and then it naturally applies that standard to bigger things. This is how people seem to suddenly achieve great success. It wasn't sudden. It was the culmination of countless small organized actions that built an unshakable internal foundation. Here's what will happen when you commit to mental organization. In the first few days, it will feel difficult. Your mind will resist. It's been running wild for years, and now you're asking it to follow a path. But persist. After about a week, you'll notice more mental clarity. Decisions become easier. Your energy stabilizes. After 2 weeks, you'll start seeing external changes, better opportunities, improved relationships, unexpected solutions. After 21 days, the time it takes to install a new neural pattern, mental organization becomes natural. You won't have to force it anymore. Your mind will automatically gravitate toward constructive thoughts. And that's when prosperity shifts from being something you chase to something you embody. That's when the universe stops being something outside of you and becomes something you're in partnership with. Napoleon Hill spent his entire life studying this phenomenon. Why do some people thrive while others merely survive? And his conclusion was always the same. It's not about talent, luck, or even hard work. It's about mental organization. It's about creating internal order so precise that the universe has no choice but to respond with external abundance. The prosperous mind isn't born, it's built. One thought at a time, one decision at a time, one organized action at a time, and you're building it right now, just by being here, by choosing to learn, by deciding that your mental world matters as much as your physical world. Because it does, in fact, it matters more. Your mental world creates your physical world, always has, always will. Now we arrive at the most crucial part, the practical method Napoleon Hill taught for reorganizing the mind and creating that prosperous mental structure we've been discussing. This isn't theory, this is the exact protocol that transformed countless lives. And it begins with understanding one fundamental truth. Your mind right now is the sum of all your past programming. Every belief, every habit, every automatic thought pattern was installed over years, mostly without your conscious awareness. But here's the liberating reality Hill discovered. What was programmed can be reprogrammed. The mind is not fixed, it's flexible. And with the right approach, you can completely rewire your mental operating system in a relatively short time. This is where the 21-day protocol comes into play, but it's far more sophisticated than just doing something for 21 days. Napoleon Hill called this the mental reconstruction method. It has 3 phases, and each phase builds upon the previous one. Phase 1 is elimination. Phase 2 is installation. Phase 3 is integration. Let's break down each one, because this is where everything you've learned so far becomes actionable. Phase 1. Elimination. You cannot fill a cup that's already full. Before you can install new mental patterns, you must remove the old ones that are taking up space. Hill identified 5 primary mental pollutants that block prosperity: chronic worry, resentment, self-doubt, scattered focus, and comparison. These aren't just negative emotions, they're energy leaks that drain your mental battery constantly. The elimination process begins each morning with what Hill called the mental inventory. Before you do anything else, before checking your phone, before coffee, before engaging with the world, you spend 5 minutes in complete honesty with yourself. You ask, what am I carrying that doesn't serve me? And you write it down. Not to judge yourself, but to become aware. Maybe it's worry about money. Maybe it's resentment towards someone who wronged you. Maybe it's doubt about whether you're capable. Whatever it is, you name it, you acknowledge it, and then you consciously release it. Hill taught a specific phrase for this release. This thought has no power over my prosperous mind. I release it now. You say it out loud. You feel it leave. This isn't magical thinking. It's neural reprogramming. When you consciously identify and release limiting thoughts, you're literally weakening the neural pathways that sustain them. Every day you do this, those pathways get weaker, while the new ones you're building get stronger. This is brain science wrapped in spiritual practice. But elimination alone isn't enough. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you remove negative patterns without installing positive ones, the old patterns will simply return. That's why phase 2 is essential: installation. This is where you deliberately choose and repeat the mental patterns you want to become automatic. Napoleon Hill taught that there are 3 installation tools, and you must use all 3 daily. First tool, affirmative declaration, but not the weak, hopeful kind most people use. Hill's declarations were statements of present reality, not future wishes. Instead of "I will be prosperous," you declare, "I am organizing my mind into a magnet for prosperity." Feel the difference? One is hoping, the other is claiming. Here are the 5 core declarations Hill recommended, and these should be spoken aloud every morning and evening. The universe is my source of support that never fails and arrives at the exact right time. Abundant sums of money flow to me now under grace. I am an open channel for wealth. All money I need appears through manifestation. I am the wealth of the universe made clearly visible. Notice the language. These aren't religious, they're universal. They work regardless of your belief system because they're tapping into the fundamental laws Hill spent his life studying. When you speak these daily, you're not trying to convince the universe, you're convincing your own subconscious. and your subconscious is what creates your reality. Second installation tool, mental rehearsal. This is where most people misunderstand visualization. It's not about daydreaming. It's about experiencing the end result so vividly that your mind cannot distinguish it from actual memory. Hill taught a specific method. Twice daily, once after waking and once before sleep, you spend 10 minutes living in your mind as if your prosperity has already manifested. But you don't just see it, you feel it. What does financial freedom feel like in your body? What does it feel like to wake up without worry? What does it feel like to give generously because you have abundance? You immerse yourself in these feelings until they become familiar. Your brain starts to recognize this state as normal, and what the brain considers normal, it moves toward automatically. Third installation tool, directed focus sessions. This is Hill's most powerful technique, yet the simplest. Once during your day, preferably midday, you stop everything for exactly 7 minutes. You sit quietly, close your eyes, and you focus entirely on one empowering thought. Just one. Perhaps it's, I am perfectly supported by the universe. For 7 minutes, every time your mind wanders, you gently bring it back to that single thought. This builds what Hill called mental muscle. Most people have never focused on a single thought for even 1 minute. Their minds jump constantly. But when you can hold focused attention for 7 minutes daily, you develop a level of mental control that most people never experience. And this control is what allows you to redirect your mind during challenging moments instead of being swept away by circumstance. These 3 tools, affirmative declaration, mental rehearsal, and directed focus, are practiced daily for 21 days minimum. That's the installation phase. Your mind is learning a new operating system. Some days it will feel natural, other days it will feel forced. Do it anyway. Consistency matters more than perfection. Hill observed that most people quit right before the breakthrough, usually around day 14 when the novelty wears off, but the habit hasn't fully formed yet. But if you persist, something remarkable happens around day 18 to 21. The new patterns start to feel natural. You catch yourself thinking prosperous thoughts automatically. You notice you're responding to challenges differently. Your energy feels more stable. This is when you know the installation is taking hold. Now we enter phase 3, integration. This is where the organized, prosperous mind becomes your default state, rather than something you have to consciously maintain. Integration happens through what Hill called living proof, taking small, consistent actions that prove to yourself you've changed. This is where the rubber meets the road. You don't just think about prosperity, you act from prosperity. If you're reorganizing your mind around abundance, you start making abundant choices. Maybe you give money away, even when it feels scary, because abundant people are generous. Maybe you invest in yourself, a course, a book, an experience, because you believe you're worth it. Maybe you clean out your closet and release what no longer serves you because you're making space for what's coming. Each of these actions sends a powerful message to your subconscious. We're really doing this. This isn't just talk. This is who we are now. And your subconscious responds by making it easier. Opportunities align, synchronicities increase, the right people show up at the right time. This isn't magic, it's coherence. Your internal world and external actions are finally matching, and the universe recognizes that signal. Napoleon Hill taught that the universe sends 3 unmistakable signs when it recognizes a prepared mind. First sign, unexpected solutions. Problems that seemed insurmountable suddenly have clear paths forward, not because the problems changed, but because your mental clarity can now see what was always there. Second sign, accelerated manifestation. Things that used to take months start happening in weeks. Doors that were closed swing open. Money appears from unexpected sources. This isn't luck. It's your new mental frequency attracting matching experiences. Third sign, deep inner peace. Even when external circumstances are challenging, you feel unshakable inside. You know you're supported. You trust the process. This peace is the ultimate confirmation that your mental reorganization is complete. Here's the complete 21-day protocol, simplified. Every morning, Do the mental inventory and release what doesn't serve you. Speak your 5 declarations aloud. Spend 10 minutes in mental rehearsal, feeling your prosperity as present reality. Midday, do your 7-minute directed focus session. Evening, repeat your declarations and mental rehearsal before sleep. And throughout the day, take at least one action that proves your new prosperous identity. That's it. Simple but not easy. The simplicity is what makes it powerful. You're not doing 40 different techniques. You're doing a few things with unwavering consistency. And consistency is what builds the neural pathways that become your new automatic thoughts. Hill discovered that complexity creates confusion, but simplicity creates transformation. Now you might be thinking, 21 days seems too simple for such a big change. And you'd be right to question that, because here's what Hill actually taught. 21 days installs the pattern, but 90 days makes it permanent. The first 21 days create the new neural pathway. The next 69 days turn that pathway into a superhighway. So yes, you'll see significant changes in 3 weeks, but if you want lasting transformation, commit to 90 days. Make this your non-negotiable daily practice. Not when you feel like it, every single day. Because the organized, prosperous mind isn't built in moments of inspiration. It's built in moments of discipline when you keep going, even though you don't feel immediate results. Hill observed something fascinating in his decades of research. The people who succeeded weren't necessarily the most talented or the most fortunate. They were the ones who maintained mental discipline longest. They understood that reorganizing the mind is like steering a massive ship. You turn the wheel today, but the ship doesn't change direction immediately. It takes time for momentum to shift. But if you keep that wheel turned, eventually the entire trajectory changes. This is where most people fail. They try the method for a few days, don't see instant results, and quit. But Hill taught that the universe has its own timing. Your job isn't to control when things manifest. Your job is to maintain the mental frequency of prosperity, regardless of current circumstances. When you can do that, when you can hold your organized, focused, abundant thoughts, even when your bank account says otherwise, that's when you've truly mastered the method. Because here's the secret most people never grasp. The universe isn't testing whether you're worthy of prosperity. It's testing whether you're stable enough to sustain it. Wealth given to an unorganized mind vanishes quickly. We've all seen lottery winners go broke. But wealth attracted by an organized, prepared mind grows exponentially because there's structure to contain it. This is why the protocol matters so much. You're not just trying to manifest money or success. You're building the mental infrastructure that can handle whatever level of prosperity comes your way. You're becoming the person who naturally operates from abundance because that's your internal set point. Comment here. My mind is prepared to receive. Write it as a declaration of your commitment to this process. Napoleon Hill taught that every person has a choice: live by default or live by design. Default is letting life happen to you, reacting to circumstances, being tossed by every wind. Design is organizing your mind so precisely that you create your circumstances. You direct your focus, you choose your responses. The protocol I just shared is your blueprint for living by design. But knowing the method isn't enough. You must apply it. Starting today, not tomorrow when conditions are better. Today with whatever you have, wherever you are. Because the universe doesn't reward perfect circumstances, it rewards committed action. And the moment you commit, truly commit to reorganizing your mind for prosperity, everything begins to shift. The test Hill used, sitting in silence for 10 minutes without mental wandering, becomes easy after following this protocol. Your mind learns to obey your direction instead of dragging you wherever it wants, and that mental mastery is worth more than any external wealth, because it's the source from which all wealth flows. You're not trying to get prosperity, you're becoming prosperity. You're organizing your mind to be a clear channel through which universal abundance can flow freely. And when you become that channel, when your mental structure is solid and your focus is clear, the universe has no choice but to pour through you. Not because you've earned it through struggle, but because you've prepared space through organization. So what happens after the reorganization? What does life look like when your mind is finally structured for prosperity? This is where Napoleon Hill's teachings become truly profound, because the transformation isn't just about achieving goals, it's about entering an entirely different way of being. You move from a state of constant struggle to a state of natural flow. And flow isn't passive, it's the most powerful form of action that exists. When your mind is organized, you stop living in reaction and start living in creation. The difference is everything. Reactive living means you wake up each day dealing with whatever shows up, problems, demands, other people's agendas. Creative living means you wake up each day building toward what you've designed, your vision, your purpose, your contribution. Same 24 hours, completely different experience. Hill observed that people with organized minds share a common characteristic. They're unshakable. Not because nothing challenges them, but because challenges no longer determine their internal state. They've created such strong mental structure that external chaos can't penetrate their inner calm. This is what he called the fortress mind, protected not by walls, but by clarity. Think about a skyscraper in a storm. The wind howls, the rain pounds, but the building stands firm because its foundation goes deep and its structure is sound. That's what an organized mind does for you. Life's storms still come, they always do. But you remain standing because your mental foundation is unshakable. You bend without breaking. You adapt without collapsing. This stability is what attracts sustained prosperity. The universe doesn't just send abundance, it sends tests to see if you can handle it. Can you receive money without becoming arrogant? Can you achieve success without losing your values? Can you have power without abusing it? The organized mind passes these tests naturally because it's built on principles, not emotions. Napoleon Hill taught something radical. Prosperity isn't something you achieve once and keep forever. It's something you embody continuously. Every day you choose it again through your thoughts, your actions, your responses. The disorganized mind thinks, once I get wealthy, I'll be fine. The organized mind knows I maintain the mental patterns of wealth, and wealth maintains itself through me. This is why people who win lotteries often lose everything. They received wealth without the mental structure to sustain it. But people who build wealth through organized thinking rarely lose it, and if they do, they rebuild quickly because the structure remains. The money was just a reflection. The real asset was always the organized mind that created it. So what does your daily life look like with a fully organized, prosperous mind? First, you wake with clarity instead of confusion. You don't wonder what you should do. You already know because you planned it the night before. Your mind isn't scattered across 100 concerns. It's focused on the few things that truly matter. This focus creates momentum, and momentum creates results. Second, you make decisions quickly and confidently. The disorganized mind second-guesses everything, paralyzed by fear of making the wrong choice. The organized mind trusts itself because it's connected to something larger. You know that even if a decision leads somewhere unexpected, you have the mental tools to handle it. Doubt no longer runs your life, discernment does. Third, you experience synchronicities regularly. The right book appears, the perfect person calls, the ideal opportunity emerges. Some call this luck, but Hill called it organized attraction. When your mental frequency is clear and consistent, you become magnetic to whatever matches that frequency. It's not mysterious, it's law. Like attracts like. Order attracts order. Clarity attracts clarity. Fourth, your energy stabilizes. No more emotional roller coasters, no more days of high motivation followed by days of complete depletion. The organized mind creates sustainable energy because it's not wasting power on internal conflict. When your thoughts align with your actions, when your words match your beliefs, you stop bleeding energy. You become efficient, powerful, effective. Fifth, you give more freely. This might seem counterintuitive, but Hill discovered that organized, prosperous minds are naturally generous. Not from obligation, but from abundance. When you know more is always flowing to you, you release what you have without fear. And this generosity creates even more flow. The universe recognizes givers and ensures they always have something to give. But here's what Hill emphasized most. The organized mind doesn't eliminate challenges. It transforms your relationship with them. Problems stop being threats and become puzzles. Setbacks stop being failures and become feedback. Rejection stops being personal and becomes redirection. This shift in perception changes everything. When you maintain mental organization, you develop what Hill called prosperous perspective. You see possibilities where others see obstacles. You recognize growth opportunities where others see inconveniences. You spot hidden blessings where others see only loss. This isn't naive optimism, it's trained perception. You've reorganized your mental lens to focus on what serves rather than what scares. The maintenance of this state requires what Hill termed continuous vigilance. Not the exhausting kind where you're always on guard, but the aware kind where you notice when old patterns try to creep back, and they will try. Your mind has decades of conditioning toward worry, scarcity, and doubt. Those neural pathways still exist. They're just weaker now. But stress, fatigue, or unexpected challenges can temporarily reactivate them. This is why the daily practice never stops. Even after 90 days, even after a year, you maintain your morning declarations, your mental rehearsals, your directed focus sessions. Not because you're broken, but because you're building. Elite athletes train daily, not because they're weak, but because they're committed to excellence. Your mind deserves the same commitment. Hill taught a powerful practice for maintaining organized prosperity, the evening reflection. Before sleep, you review your day through the lens of your organized mind. You ask yourself 3 questions. Where did I think, speak, and act from prosperity today? This reinforces the new patterns. Where did I slip into old scarcity patterns? This brings awareness without judgment. What will I do even better tomorrow? This creates continuous improvement. This reflection takes 5 minutes, but it's possibly the most valuable 5 minutes of your day. You're training your mind to recognize its own patterns. You're becoming the observer of your thoughts rather than their victim. And this awareness is liberation. When you can see your mind working, you can direct it. When you can direct it, you can create anything. Napoleon Hill spent 50 years studying successful people, and his conclusion was always the same. They weren't smarter, luckier, or more talented than others. They simply maintained organized thinking longer. They didn't quit when things got hard. They didn't abandon their mental discipline when circumstances changed. They understood that the organized mind is like a garden. It requires daily tending, not occasional attention. And here's the beautiful truth. The longer you maintain this practice, the easier it becomes. The first 21 days require conscious effort. The next 69 days require consistent practice. But after that, organized thinking becomes your default. Your mind naturally gravitates toward constructive thoughts. You automatically redirect focus when it strays. The practice becomes effortless because it's become your nature. This is when prosperity stops being something you pursue and becomes something you are. You don't work for abundance. You work from abundance. You don't chase opportunities. You recognize the ones already surrounding you. You don't force results. You allow them to unfold through your consistent, organized action. Hill called this state living in the flow of universal supply. It's not passive waiting. It's active alignment. You do your part with excellence, organize your mind, maintain your practices, take inspired action, and the universe does its part, opening doors, creating connections, delivering resources. This partnership is the ultimate expression of organized prosperity. But remember, this isn't about perfection. You'll have days when your mind feels chaotic again, days when doubt creeps in, days when old fears resurface. This is normal. This is human. The difference is that now you have tools, you have a method, you have a way back to center. When you notice disorganization creeping back, you don't panic. You simply return to the protocol: morning inventory, declarations, mental rehearsal, directed focus. Within days, sometimes within hours, you're back in alignment. The organized mind isn't one that never struggles, it's one that knows how to reorganize quickly. Hill taught that the universe rewards self-correction above perfection. It's not looking for people who never fall, it's looking for people who always get back up. who recognize when they're off track and take immediate action to realign. This resilience, this commitment to returning to organization no matter what, is what creates lasting prosperity. As you move forward from this moment, understand that you're not just learning information, you're receiving an invitation. An invitation to live differently, to think differently, to be different. The organized, prosperous mind isn't reserved for special people. It's available to anyone willing to do the daily work of mental reorganization. You have the method now. You have the tools. You have the understanding. What remains is your decision. Will you commit to 21 days? Will you maintain the practices? Will you trust the process, even when results aren't immediate? These questions only you can answer. But know this, every person who has ever achieved sustained prosperity made the same choice you're facing now. They decided their mental organization mattered more than their temporary circumstances. And they discovered what you're about to discover. When you organize your mind first, the universe takes care of the rest, not eventually, inevitably, because you've aligned yourself with laws that never fail. You've structured your internal world to match the abundance that's always been available. You've become a clear channel through which prosperity flows naturally. Napoleon Hill's entire life work can be summarized in one sentence. Organize your mind, and your life organizes itself. Everything else, the techniques, the principles, the protocols, is just detail. The core truth is simple. What's inside creates what's outside. Always has, always will. So today, right now, in this moment, you stand at a choice point. Continue living with a disorganized mind and experience the chaos that creates, or commit to the protocol, maintain the practices, and watch your entire life transform from the inside out. The universe is waiting, not to judge you, but to partner with you. It's been waiting for you to organize your internal world so it can flood your external world with the abundance you've been seeking. The question isn't whether you're worthy, you are. The question isn't whether it works, it does. The only question is, are you ready to do what it takes? To show up daily even when it's hard, to maintain discipline when motivation fades, to trust the process when results delay. If your answer is yes, then everything changes starting today. Not because the world changed, but because you changed. You organized your mind for prosperity, and the universe recognized a prepared partner. What comes next isn't struggle, it's flow. Not force, natural unfolding. Not hoping, knowing. This is the power of the organized mind. This is the gift Napoleon Hill spent his life revealing. This is your birthright, waiting for you to claim it through deliberate, consistent, organized thought and action. Napoleon Hill taught that the universe doesn't respond to the desperate. It responds to the prepared. When you organize your mind, when you create internal structure, when you align your thoughts with purpose, prosperity stops being coincidence and becomes natural consequence. Starting today, make mental organization your first ritual. Practice the protocol. Maintain the disciplines. Trust the process. And when you've done your part, release control. The universe always handles the rest. Comment here. I am ready to partner with the laws of prosperity. And if this message resonated with you, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it right now. When you spread light, the universe returns it to you multiplied. Remember, you don't chase prosperity. You organize your mind and prosperity finds you. That's not hope, that's law. And laws never fail those who align with them.